Getting into the thick of the primary now, and I saw a recent bit of your work on Mediaite talking about a poll for Democratic primary voters. Where are they getting their news when they turn to TV? And apparently CNN just dominated over not just Fox News, which you obviously would expect, but MSNBC as well. What do you make of that?
Well, that was really surprising, and I put some thought into it. And the real answer is I'm not exactly sure. I think CNN had 62% of the respondents, and MSNBC was around 42, and Fox News was like 22 or something like that. I think MSNBC has become a place for a lot of progressive thought, and they do really well, and they usually do better than CNN in overall ratings. But if you look at their sort of target demo, which you sort of advertise against, CNN compares pretty favorably. I suspect, MSNBC made a sort of strategic decision about, 7 or 8 years ago to lean in and to sort of be kind of the counterweight to Fox News, which they've since tried to retract from. But their primetime programming is clearly opinion-based, and it's smart, and it's good. CNN still sort of, even though they're all in on an anti-Trump news reporting, and reasonably so, they still sort of are the last to sort of hold on to classic capital J journalism. And they also are one of the few networks that have, they feature pro-Trump voices. And so you can argue and say that, the panel discussions in these fights and the over-the-top hyperbole isn't necessarily helpful, and it's not really journalism. But you do hear a debate, whether it's Scott Jennings or Rick Santorum or Sean Duffy, and they get a lot of criticism for putting on people who are amplifying Trump's lies. I happen to argue that I think it's good to have a dialogue, right? If they're lying and they're saying bad things, they can get called out in real time. So I think lately there's been so much news around impeachment and the politics, and I think that CNN has an edge in sort of the connotation around it of being more of a news outlet. Now I know there's probably people snickering at that, but I think that's the case.
So I want to ask you. You talked about CNN and MSNBC. They're leaning in, a while back. And I will admit my bias as a person who a progressive host for the Young Turks. I never saw their leaning in as leaning particularly far. But you did mention that it wasn't that much after that they sort of went back to standing up straight. To what extent can you really differentiate CNN and MSNBC on some sort of willing ideological bent? How much does that actually exist to the extent that it ever existed?
Give me 2 hours and I can sort of break that down. I mean, that's a big question. I think NBC News has a terrific news organization. Fox News really doesn't have much of a news aggregation or news department. They've kind of become aggregators. CNN also has, I would argue, especially in the political world and inside the Beltway, CNN has sort of top-notch news outlet. So I think the difference there is that they both have strong news outlets. It's a matter of opinion. I think the evening primetime, Chris Cuomo, Don Lemon on CNN, they are very clear critics of President Trump, but they lead panel discussions and they try to be fair, but they're not sort of kind of nakedly progressive. Whereas you see Chris Hayes, Rachel Maddow, Lawrence O'Donnell, they're going all in. And so I think you find a distinction there. And you could argue that MSNBC is pretty straightforward and you know what you're going to get. Whereas, CNN claims to be some sort of ideologically sort of pure, but yet what they're putting on air is different. And I would argue that, Rachel Maddow, for example, could be, she's clearly an opinion host, but, she showed journalistic chops. She was a tour de force when she interviewed Lev Parnas and made a ton of news. And so, yes, she may be sort of like an opinion host, but she anchored and did that interview with such command of the facts. She showed, and I sent her a note saying well, that was masterclass. The media world needs more Rachel Maddows. We at Mediaite don't cover much MSNBC in that regard because we kind of cover the crazy, over the top hyperbole and the gaffes and the fights. And MSNBC is often entirely too reasonable, right? This is this is a smart take, and it's also less surprising because you can. You kind of know what they're going to come out with. I think that MSNBC and actually Fox News has what I call a classic rock problem. There's only so many times you can hear Stairway to Heaven, and there's only so many times you can hear Sean Hannity talk about Uranium One or Ukraine conspiracy. And CNN, because they have some conflict and they do have competing points of view, it can be it's scarce. It can be a bit unique.
Yeah, for me with Sean Hannity, it was once actually. That was enough. I was good. Colby Hall, founding editor for Mediaite. We really appreciate you joining us. Hopefully we can talk soon.
I'm here for you whenever you need. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.